Hello and welcome to another edition of Classroom Chronicle. I'm your host, Pete Braley. The world watched on January 2nd as Buffalo Bills player Damar Hamlin collapsed on a football field in Cincinnati. The alert, fast action of the medical professionals on the sideline saved that young man's life. Since then, attention has been focused on the people on the sideline and the courtside and their role that each member has. We at Classroom Chronicle felt it was time to get to know some of the athletic trainers that are on the sidelines and courtside as New Bedford students go out and perform. So today, we are at New Bedford High School, where we're going to visit with Assistant Athletic Trainer Bill Haight. Bill, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you're the assistant, right? The head trainer is
Nate Walker.
Nate Walker,
yes.
Who's off taping somebody right now, so thank you for...
He's in the classroom now.
That's right. You guys are teachers as well as athletic trainers.
Yes, we are.
Right.
Yep.
What do you teach?
Phys ed now.
Okay.
And I was teaching health for 26 years.
26 years.
Yeah, so luckily I transitioned out of the classroom and into the gym just in time, so...
All right.
Yeah.
You told me that you went to Bridgewater State College back in the day, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Bridgewater State, and graduated there in '89, and came right down here and began working. And then in '93, I took a year off to go to the University of Virginia.
Oh, cool.
Very proud of that year. Traveled up and down the East Coast with their sports teams, and a lot of great athletes, a lot of great memories.
Wow, that's an adventure.
So I got my master's in athletic training there.
Excellent. Have you always wanted to be an athletic trainer?
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was 16, I was playing sports in high school, just like everybody does, and had knee problems, and it was debilitating. And we didn't have anybody to tell us what was wrong with us. Oh. So, or I didn't have anyone to tell me what was wrong with me. So I was researching, and I finally got checked out by a doctor. And once I found out what it was, how to treat it, it was up to me to do that.
Do the therapy, yeah.
Yep. And so, as the next year and a half go by, I'm thinking, well, what am I going to do with my life? I love sports. I love being around sports. And I can see how these injuries, are really affecting people. Mm-hmm. And I decided on athletic training.
Super.
Yeah.
So what came first, athletic training or teacher or both? What?
Well, initially I wanted to be just an athletic trainer. And
this was in the late 80s, right?
This was in the late 80s,
okay.
Mid to late 80s. And then I went, from Bridgewater, they assign you to different schools for rotations. So I went to Durfee High School for a rotation in the spring, and I met Paul Peliquin. And if you look him up, he's a legend. Everybody would come through the door, Mr. P, and he knew what was wrong with them, and he could fix them. And I learned so much from him, and I changed my mind from there. That must have been 1987. Okay. And so I went back for teacher preparation classes, and took an extra year at Bridgewater to get certified as a teacher.
Cool.
And then came here.
So let's go back to the, as I mentioned at the top of the show, we started thinking about coming here after the Damar Hamlin situation. Were you watching the game that night? Did you see the young man go down?
I was not watching,
okay.
But it only took a minute or two for my phone to go off, and we switched the channel right away, and we watched it unfold. And so my wife's a nurse, okay. And we were back and forth.
Right.
Like,
what do you think it is?
I think this is happening. That's and then they would show the replay of, how he went down, and that's a nightmare for any athletic trainer, really.
Now, as we watched it, those of us that have no medical background, I was amazed by what everyone was doing, how they all seemed to know what to do. Did that surprise you, or is that just that's protocol?
Well, those teams have enough personnel that it looked very good.
Yeah.
At a high school with one or two athletic trainers, we don't usually work together. Sometimes we're together working at the same time, but at an event, there'll be one on each sideline for football. Hockey games will have one athletic trainer. Basketball, we cover our home court.
Right. So you take care of the away team also.
Yeah. So it always probably wouldn't look as smooth, but we're trained the same as those athletic trainers.
I learned after that the NFL has emergency protocols in place, and I've spoken to some athletic trainers who say that high schools do too, as far as who's going to call 911, who's going to open the gate for the ambulance. Is that something that New Bedford High has that you go over periodically?
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do, the emergency action plan. But it's difficult because it's ever changing who's in the building and who's at the event. It's ever changing. Most of the responsibility is going to fall on the athletic trainer and whatever administrator is available. So if Mr. Tarpey is there, he's going to be involved immediately.
The athletic
directors.
Right.
And from there we have we have security personnel here, and so someone would get the AED, someone would make sure the doors are open, and to meet the ambulance. Outdoor events different than indoor events. Outdoors we have the custodial groundskeeping crew that are on gators, and they would speed to the entrances, unlock gates, and we would work that way.
Okay.
That's what it's always been in the past.
I did want to ask you, this is such a big complex. For anybody that doesn't know New Bedford High, they have a turf field that's over where the old Keith used to be, right?
Yep.
They have a turf field. Across the street is Walsh Field that has the football field, soccer fields. Then we have the baseball field. Yep. Then you have sports that take place here in the gym, which is in the high school. There's a pool. How do you cover all of it? I mean, I came out for interviews one day. I told you this before we started. And I think I interviewed 4 different coaches, and they were all over the place.
Yeah.
So how do you cover everything on a game day?
Yeah. Game days, they're a little bit challenging sometimes. This athletic training room that we're in now is in the high school. And me being the part-time guy, I'm usually stationed over here. Okay. There's fewer sports going on this side. The outdoor athletic training room is where Nate will spend all of his time, and he does more hours in the week. And so he has a gator, and he's able to get around quickly over there. But if we have multiple things over there that get to be a little, then I'll go over there.
Right.
And we spread ourselves out from that way.
I asked you before how you ever did it before cell phones, and you had walkie-talkies back in the day, right?
Yeah.
Let me ask you about yourself. Where are you from? You said you went to Bridgewater, so I guess you're local.
I grew up in New Hampshire.
In New Hampshire?
Actually, yeah.
Okay.
I grew up in New Hampshire, Franklin, New Hampshire.
Okay.
And Bridgewater was one of the only few choices back in 1984 for athletic training. And so off I went down to Bridgewater.
And then you told me that you did some work over at Durfee. Is that something you share with the New Bedford athletes, that you liked your time at Durfee?
No. No. I will speak very highly of their athletic trainer then and now. Actually, the girl that's there now, she worked underneath me for a while and got some of her hours, like I did with Paul. So I appreciate that.
Right. Can I ask what a typical day is like for an athletic trainer? And maybe question 1B then is there such a thing? I mean, are they all different?
I feel like they're all so close to being the same. Very, very similar.
Okay.
Days are similar. So kids start to arrive at about the same time. What's going on varies at what time of the season it is. So if it's the fall season, which is by far the busiest.
Is it?
Yep. The fall season has the contact sport, football, which requires so much attention. Mm-hmm. Those guys need someone with them all the time because of the nature of the sport. You have to be nearby.
Right.
So Nate is over there. He does all that. I did that for a long time. And I told you I do miss it, but being older, and I like to step back and enjoy a little more time than that. but the days they blend.
Yeah.
They blend. Events. So some days it's an event where very few kids are in here, and we're watching in case something happens. And then other days it's just a mob in here. Everybody wants to know what's wrong. You know, can I get ice? Why? How come I'm not feeling better?
Right.
I did your stretches, or you know, everything.
We are recording this on a. There are no games today, right? It's all practice.
No games today.
Right. Is that do you work harder on a practice day, or is a game day harder, or is there really no difference?
That one of the things about my job, most of the time, if anybody sees me doing it, they think I'm standing there and doing nothing. So that if you see me at a basketball game, I'm not doing anything unless someone gets hurt.
You're waiting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So days where there's no games and it's just practices, those are the days the kids are in here to try and find out what's wrong.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and do some rehab. A lot of days it's both though. So if we have boys basketball at home, later on the girls team practices first.
Okay.
So the girls team have practice, so we have them in here, and then we transition to a game where it's quiet and we watch and wait.
The hours can be kind of crazy too, right? I mean, obviously, you're not doing your trainer duties in the morning, right? You're teaching.
I'm teaching, yes, until 3.
Right.
Yep.
So then at 3 o'clock you become the trainer. We've covered a number of night games, so you're sometimes here till 8:30, 9 o'clock at night.
Sometimes I am, not as often as Nate. So,
Right.
you know, credit where credit is due. He's doing all the hours.
And then there are also weekend games, right? I noticed that Sunday afternoon basketball is popular.
And weekend morning practices on Saturdays.
Oh, right.
So it's a 6-day a week, and in the fall it's 3 or 4 nights a week with volleyball. And I try to take all the volleyball. Those can go long.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to cover all the volleyball in the spring and the fall, which frees him up so that he can get a night home a little earlier than 7:30.
And I can understand, as we talk about these schedules and these hours, why you took a break when you said when your kids were younger.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. So I did 16 years of, full
Flat
time.
out. Right.
And then did per diem for 10 years. Work a couple days here and there a week.
So you've been a trainer for how many years?
Well, here is 33, and 1 year at Virginia, and then
Wow.
34 years.
Have you noticed the profession has changed a lot over the years? I notice as a broadcaster that, and I've mentioned this on the air, I've seen more kids playing with knee braces than I ever have before, which makes me think that maybe we've gotten better at diagnosing problems and treating them. Have you noticed an increase in injuries, or is the business just better at really getting in there and dealing with it?
That's a tough question. I don't think the business has changed a lot for me.
Okay.
So, being a high school athletic trainer, we don't get the kids to fully buy in on everything.
Right.
So, rehab, they're here and there. They'll come in for a little while and then they're gone. They don't finish, and then they're hurt again, and they don't see what's
Could have prevented
that.
Yeah.
They're invincible at that age.
Oh yeah.
And so as far as like the job changing, since I was in school at Bridgewater, we've been wanting to promote a professional atmosphere. We want to promote our profession. We don't want to be looked at as a water boy, or a glorified water boy or a towel boy.
My daughter uses the phrase, "We do more than hand out ice and wrap ankles."
Yeah. And so, when I came back with my master's from Virginia, I mean, I saw Virginia back then was really, it was amazing to see how that level, manages their athletes.
Right.
And I tried to do as much as we could here, but I know after all these years that there's the kids, they're not gonna put in the effort, the amount of time.
I often tell the story that when I was coaching baseball, I had 15-year-olds, and I would always tell my catchers, especially after a doubleheader, I would always tell the catchers, you got to go home and ice your knees.
Yeah.
And they would laugh at me.
Right.
They're 15 years old. Coach, you need to ice.
Yeah.
They don't have to.
It's so true. It's the same here.
Yeah.
Consistency is something that they don't get.
Right, and it's just the age.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned that you enjoyed your year at the college level. Was there ever a part of you that wanted to go to the college level, or did you ever think of going pro?
Yeah. So those jobs are even more hours than what I was doing here. A pro job is 6 straight months of,
Well, we were talking about the other day about how, spring training is starting up. Yeah. So they're going to be in Florida or Arizona for 2 months or a month and a half before they start going on the road.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and the travel, to have a family and do that job, you have to be, be able to have that work.
It's a single man or woman's game, probably. Much easier.
Or if you're with the person that understands,
right?
Yeah. Cool. And the college level is quite a bit as well. I'm still a big Virginia fan, and I watch the basketball games. And the athletic trainer is the same guy that was there when I was there.
Oh wow!
And he's a legend, and I see him, on TV, and his wife is an athletic trainer, so that it works. He's been there for at least 40-something years, and he's able to do it.
One more question, or a couple more questions. Do you have friends or family members that call you and say, "Hey, Bill, I got a little tweak in my elbow. What do you think I should do?"
That's slowed down a little from family. From friends, so my sister's a cardiologist, so she gets more of the calls now. But friends, yes. Yeah, friends, and when my friends had younger kids playing Pop Warner, and some of the coaches, when their kids were smaller, I would be at their house and checking kids out, and that was fine with me. I didn't mind that at all.
And the other question, I ask you this because we do this, I told you how my daughter is an athletic trainer.
Right.
And we do this to her every Sunday during the football season. Somebody will go down on the field and you'll hear Joe Buck or somebody say, "Oh, somebody's down with an injury," and we immediately go, "Kat, what's wrong?"
Yeah.
Do they quiz you as to, what do you think it is?
I'll get quizzed sometimes, for sure.
And can you tell by seeing the replay what he may or may not have done to himself?
A lot of times. Yeah. A lot of times you can see, and then sometimes the replays aren't showing it close enough that you can see, but a lot of times I have a good idea.
Okay. Well, we're going to meet some of the kids when they come in and maybe take a look at what. Now, it's a practice day today, but you're still wrapping ankles and stuff in preparation? Or?
Yep. So some of the teams that are getting ready to practice, those athletes are going to come in and they're going to need to either get some ice or get ready for practice.
For someone who may not know, why do you wrap an ankle? I mean, that's a big thing, right?
That's a great question.
You get your ankles wrapped. Does everybody, or is it just football, basketball?
It goes by the injury, and so one of the things kids think that if they have pain, they should get taped. So a lot of times kids come in, they can you tape my ankle? And the other day, a kid came over and said, "Hey, the coach told me to have my wrist taped." And I said, "Yeah, well, go ask the coach if he wants to do this and have me coach the game." And I was really only kidding with her, but she went and told him. And so we had a big laugh afterwards. He's a friend of mine, obviously. And he says, "I dabble in athletic training," and, we laughed. But your question about taping an ankle, if an ankle is a little bit unstable, so that means a ligament was injured.
Okay.
Then I'll tape an ankle to prevent further injury. An ankle doesn't get taped just because it hurts, because tendonitis. A lot of kids have tendonitis in the ankle somewhere, and they think they're really hurt when it's really just they need to stretch and manage the range of motion and take care of their pain.
If I'm a student athlete and I have nothing bothering me, do I get my ankles taped?
No, sir.
No. Okay.
No.
See, I didn't know that.
I
thought every football player got taped.
No.
Okay.
No. That can happen at a college level, or pro level if they get whatever they want at the pro level.
Right.
And the big colleges, same thing. Whatever you want. No expense spared. But a good athletic trainer and a good athletic training program, they're going to try to shy you away from being taped because it's only going to weaken your joint. You're going to become dependent on it.
Okay.
So truly weaken the joint? No, but is it the way to go? No.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Coming up, anybody who follows me on social media or knows me knows that my daughter is an athletic trainer, and she actually had quite a scary moment at a football game in November. She'll join us in the studio next. Back in studio now, and I'm joined by my youngest daughter. Please welcome the head athletic trainer from Norton High School, Katherine Savigny, or Kat, as she's known by most. Welcome.
Hi.
Now, you may wonder why we're talking to someone from Norton, but as I said, anyone that knows me or follows my socials might wonder why I didn't just talk to my daughter about this after what she experienced in November. As we said, the Damar Hamlin injury has put the spotlight on the care that our athletes receive on the field. And I know you've told this story many times, Kat, but if you don't mind one more time, what happened after your game in November?
All right, so on November 5th, after the first game, our first home game of the season, one of our officials, the one that's up in the booth, the official timekeeper, he was walking down with one of our coaches to the parking lot after the game, and he started not feeling good and he collapsed. And after evaluation, he was having a heart attack. So after we did CPR, we had to use the AED. We shocked him once. We got him back to life. Yeah. And by the time the ambulance came back, he was talking, and it was really nice.
You told me that you hadn't done anything that night, right?
No.
I mean, this is a football game where you didn't have to get ice.
I had no injuries. It was, I think maybe I covered up one turf burn, but I did absolutely nothing for any of my players, and then I had the biggest moment of my career at the end of the football game.
Wow. Now, you're also a certified EMT, correct?
Yes.
Now, is that something, I forgot to ask Bill whether or not he was, but is that something that all athletic trainers are certified, or is it just an option for you? Or?
So we're not required to do it. I went to Bridgewater State, and 4 of our grad students was at the Boston Marathon bombing. And when the school reached out to them of what do you guys need? What support do you need? They said, we want more training and stuff so we can help. We felt like we couldn't help. So that's when Bridgewater brought in EMT certification as one of our courses. And then it's optional if we wanted to get certified or not. And I was like, you know what? I took the whole course. I might as well get certified in it too. So I do hold the certification. I don't work as an EMT, but I hold the certification.
Right. And a lot of people have asked you, right, since this issue, they're like, how did you do it? And just your training kicked in, right?
Yeah, I mean, they teach us in school what to do. They teach us, we have continuing education. We always have to keep our CPR certification up to date. So it was just training took over.
Right. Were you watching the game when Damar Hamlin collapsed?
So I actually wasn't. My husband wanted a video game night.
Okay.
So he was playing video games. I was watching something on my laptop, and I went on Facebook, and I saw that, ESPN breaking news, game was stopped, player had, was getting CPR. So we immediately turned on SportsCenter, and they weren't showing the video at the time because they didn't really know what was happening, but I watched the coverage the whole night, just praying he was okay. Mm-hmm. And then it was the next day is when I finally saw the video, and that was scary.
Was it spooky for you? I mean, did you have a flashback?
It did bring me back, yeah. I didn't see when my referee went down because I was at the 50, I was cleaning up my stuff. So I was just called and I turned around and he was down. But to see Damar Hamlin stand up after the hit and then just collapse. Right. It brought me back to my situation, yeah.
And you told me you wouldn't be upset if you never have to use the AED again, correct?
I will be so happy if I go my whole career with never having to use that thing again.
And I'm sure there are some athletic trainers that probably do.
Some of my mentors, when I reached out to them of like, oh my gosh, you have no idea what happened. They told me, they were like, we've been doing this for 30 something years. I've been at this for 50 years and I've never once used my AED. And I've been at it for 2 years.
Wow. I'm really happy that we've been able to explore what the athletic trainers do at our high schools. As you told me, you gave me that line, you do more than hand out ice and tape ankles, right?
Yes, yes, we do.
You really have to look at each athlete individually, right?
Yep.
And kind of tailor what you do to their needs?
Yeah, I mean, every injury is different. You know, they all might say, oh, I also have a sprained ankle, but every ankle injury is different. Every wrist injury is different. So we really have to take the time to evaluate, diagnose, come up with a rehab plan, work with them one-on-one with the rehab plan, because their ultimate goal is they want to get back. So, right. And that's my goal too. I want to get them back to playing too.
One of the things Bill told me that frustrates him in New Bedford is that we forget sometimes that they are kids.
Yep.
And he said that they feel like they're indestructible. Like, I don't have to rehab, I don't have to ice, because I'm only, 17, 16?
Yeah. 15, 14. Yep.
So, why did you get into this occupation? I know the answer, but let me hear it from you.
I grew up playing sports, as you know, all my life, and I wanted to stay involved in sports, and I just didn't know how. But until I got into high school and I started seeing what athletic trainers do, I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be able to help people, but also stay involved in something that I love.
Plus, you had your share of injuries, so you saw how important it was to help people get back on the field, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So there has been, I guess, a real focus on what happens on the sidelines. In fact, didn't the Buffalo, it was an assistant trainer that started CPR, right?
Yeah.
Didn't he get, he was almost the MVP, right?
He got voted 5th. He was number 5 on the voting list for MVP for the NFL.
Wow. And as you watched that all take place, when you tuned in, did it all make sense to you? I mean, could you relate to the fact that this person's doing this? Because there are emergency protocols, right?
Yeah, so at each venue we have emergency action plans. So it comes down to, like, who's going to call 911? Who's going to go meet the ambulance? Where's the AED? Where's this? Who's going to grab this? So we all have individual EAPs is what they're called. And just to see it all unfold, like, we rehearse this stuff and people don't know that. Like, we got a new complex at Norton this year. We got a brand new turf field. So in the beginning of the season, we had to go through like, okay, the ambulance is going to pull over here to our new gate and we have to practice where, all of my equipment's going to be. So there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that people don't see what we do. And
you also told me that that night, for some reason, you went over the plan again with the trainer from the other school, something you never do. Yeah, so we were playing Sharon. We've played Sharon in the past. She's come to my field a lot. I've gone to her a lot. So we worked together for the past couple of years. But something just told me, like, hey, it's a new complex. The gates are, for the most part, the same, but we have one new bigger gate that we're going to use. So, like, something told me, just mention it, just in case, on the off chance we needed an ambulance, and sure enough, we did. Wow. Well, maybe it was meant to, you were where you were meant to be. Yep. Yeah, I guess so. Yep. All right, thanks for coming in. Of course, thank you. It's been fun in this episode to look at our athletic trainers and to find out more of what goes on behind the scenes. So we want to thank Kat, and we want to thank Bill Haight from New Bedford High as well, and also Tom Tarpey for his help in setting that up. By the way, if you have an idea for a future show or something you think we should cover in any of the schools that serve New Bedford students, please let me know. You can email me here at the station and I will get back to you. That's going to do it for this week. Thank you so much. We'll see you again next time for Classroom Chronicle. I'm Pete Braley. Take care.